Hello, hello. Welcome to today's free Ask the Expert. I haven't done one of these in a while. I took a little bit of a summer break, so I'm glad that a lot of you came on and decided to sign on. So I want to start off by making sure that you answer my little poll, just so I know what are the age groups that are in the room today. When I know about the age groups, then it helps me answer your questions and make sure that I am, hitting the important things that that we think about as it pertains to our kiddos. So how does this work? I start off by giving you kind of like ideas and talking about pain points that I think most of you are probably grappling with at this time. And I can guess some of your pain points, not because I'm a witch or anything like that, although some people think I am, but primarily because there are certain developmental markers, there are certain psychological things that are happening with your babies that are normal and are common, and also psychological things that are happening for all of you. So looking at my little poll here, most of you have children under 10. The majority of you are here because you have 3-year-olds. Of course, the majority of you are here because you have 3-year-olds, because 3-year-olds have 3 major tantrums per hour. Most 80% of them have approximately 3 major tantrums per hour. And why is that? Because anywhere between 2.5 and 4.5, the human species is learning what an emotion is called, how to manage an emotion, and how to present emotion. So why are 43% of you in the 3-year-old range in this little Ask the Expert today? Because you're the ones that want answers, because it is incredibly difficult to help support and guide a human being that is constantly losing themselves in emotion. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Lina Acosta Sandaal. I am a psychotherapist, a development expert. Now I have added author to the list because I'm writing a book about social emotional learning for teachers, and I'm super excited to add that to my resume. And I opened Stop Parenting Alone because when I went to get my master's program after I had my first child, who today is 16, I was really angry in my master's program that parents don't have the information that I was learning about. And I wanted to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So everything that I do at Stop Parenting Alone is based on the idea that I know that if I give you the right information, you will always make the right choices for your children. It's just that sometimes as parents, we get stuck in not knowing what to do and how to answer and how to manage it, only because we don't have developmental information, psychological information, health information that we need so that we can make the best choice and the most, intelligent choice to help and guide our kiddos. So, like I said, I start off by sharing my little handy dandy slide. So let me open it up so that we see it. And these are the topics that we're going to talk about today, right? So I know that for a lot of you and your kiddos, especially any of you that hopped on after I did the poll that may have teenagers, we are burnt out with everything that we have been living through as it pertains to pandemic times and social unrest, right? And burnout, the definition of burnout is being, emotionally just completely out of whack, feeling like, just like you care too long for care too much for too long, being like you don't have self-determination is kind of gone, like you don't feel that anything that you're doing is making any sort of difference, And finally, just kind of really not being able to kind of plan ahead, think ahead. So that's true burnout. And and then what ends up doing is that we end up drinking a little too much wine, we end up eating a little too much sugar, we end up drinking too much caffeine to get us through the day. The children end up playing too many video games, watching too many Netflix shows, avoiding any kind of responsibility just because we feel overwhelmed. So what do you do to manage burnout? First and foremost, if I had the money to put billboards all over the United States, I would say sleep, 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 and walk 30 minutes every day in the sunshine. We're all in Miami. We are so lucky. Those of you that are not in Miami and have hopped on, I apologize. Not all of you are in Miami. Some of you are in Clubhouse and some of you are here on the Zoom. So be mindful to sleep and move. We cannot fix something. We cannot fix with our mind something that our mind created. So what I mean by that is that you spinning, wondering, hurting about whatever it is that is just spinning in a hurricane in your mind, you're not going to calm by thinking more about it. You're going to feel better if you go outside, if you walk the dog, if you park really far away in the Milam's parking lot and walk that extra mile, not mile, but that extra amount of time to get to the supermarket. The more you walk and the more you're in the sun, the more we deal with the body. When your mind has created chaos, you have to dip into the body. And now I say this for you, but guess what? 40% of you have 3-year-olds. You cannot talk your child out of a tantrum. Stop talking. We cannot resolve with the mind and with logic what the mind has created. If your baby is falling down to the ground because their beans touched their rice, the mind has created that loss of emotional beings, right? So the only thing you have to do is say, yes, it's so sad when they touch, then quiet and dip into the body, right? Notice that they're like, that's physical, that's breathing, that's coming back to center. So stop talking and deal with, mommy is going to breathe so that we can both calm down. And if your nervous system is not calm while they're in the midst of a tantrum, if a tantrum meets your internal nervous system tantrum, it's never going to calm. Again, we're mind, body, spirit. And for those of you, back to this burnout idea, I want you to do it for yourself, in thinking about these really difficult times that we're living in. So when you're in a remolino, I can't think of the word in English, I'm like Spanglish girl, when you're in a whirlwind of thought, the only thing that's going to make you feel better is a shower, a glass of water, breathing, untightening your shoulders, and going for a walk and sitting under the sun. And the same for your child. When your child is overwhelmed and overstimulated, whether they're 3 and they're having a tantrum, or whether they're 5 and they're telling you that I don't want to do the homework, or whether they're 8 and they're going and they're rolling their eyes and they're telling you that they hate that you always make them eat broccoli, always bring them back to, all right, we can't think, we can't talk. Let's calm our body. Let's loosen our body. Let's wiggle our body out so that we can talk and we can stop being speaking within emotion, right? So that's tip number 1 for everybody today. You cannot fix something you cannot fix the mind with something that the mind created. You have to go dip into the body, right? And now this other piece that we've been talking about, it's really important for everyone to think about uncertainty. So we are coming up on a brand new school year. Some of you have already started. Some of you started today. Some of you are starting next Monday. And, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. So I kind of want to normalize that idea of when we don't know what's going to happen, we don't feel safe. And I'm going to put it into, and that's why this school year, that's why you're feeling scared. That's why you're feeling angry and irritated, right? Because we don't have certainty. We haven't had certainty since March 2020. And by the way, prior to March 2020, you had an illusion of certainty because every time your child started school before this whole pandemic started, there really wasn't anything certain. We just knew that they would be healthier than now. Right? We don't know what's going to happen, especially I have held in mind and in my heart, all of you guys that have children under 12, because the stakes are high, especially if they're not able to get vaccinated, which is one of many ways to help children that are the American Pediatric Association is telling parents to help their children. So how do you manage uncertainty with yourself and with your littles? By holding a goal. Our goal is to get to school. Our goal is to, wake up and do the thing, but letting go of the results. And it's a great lesson to teach to yourself, but it's an awesome lesson to teach to your children, right? This is why the 6, 7, 8-year-old has a really hard time playing a board game. Right? Their expectation is to win. So when they don't win, and the uncertainty of sometimes you win, sometimes you lose hits them in the face, it upsets them, right? So that's why we play a board game because, we have to be mindful of showing them and being with the uncertain. Also, know how uncomfortable you feel that our lawmakers, who are sort of like our parents in a way, because they tell us, what keeps us safe, they're not giving us concrete rules, right? And they're disagreeing. That's why I don't ever want you to disagree with whomever you parent with, right? Make sure that you are a team. Make sure that your rules and your routine are consistent and your child can predict it, because the more you cause uncertainty into another human being, the more they will feel angry and scared. Now, the school year. I want everybody, if you don't hear anything else that I say in this hour, I want you to remember this. All of you want your children to build their self-esteem. I talked about this on Instagram Live that I did on Monday. Go to my Instagram @parenting_expert and you can watch it. It's like 9 minutes. But this year, I want you to practice compassion rather than goals or tasks, right? So what I mean by that is, when and if your child has a hard time with their homework, when and if your child has a hard time getting in the car to go to school, when and if your child has a hard time, listening to you about going to talk to their teacher if they're a middle schooler, don't say, why do you always do this? Why won't you listen to me? Because that's learning, that's shaming rather than learning from mistakes, right? Because a brain full of shame does not learn. A brain full of shame does not learn, right? Criticism creates fear, which does not support motivation. But compassion, saying, you know what, buddy, you really made a mistake by not talking to your teacher and telling them that you couldn't read that book. But I know that you were scared to talk to her. Compassion. So let's plan on what we can do next time. And just do that the rest of the school year. And the more we give compassionate feedback to our children, the more their esteem rises. Why? Because you're telling them, I know that you're kind. I know that you meant well. Even if you in your head are like, no, Lina, mi niño es un manipulador. I don't care. Pretend. Because actually, I know that your child is not manipulating. Your child is just trying to stay in pleasure and trying not to feel frustrated. Yes, it feels like a manipulation to you, but it's because they don't know how to handle manipulation. They don't know how to handle frustration, right? So in getting back to school, I really, really, really want you guys to hold that in mind, no matter the age of the child. Now, performance and, thinking about, how to help them, right? Take a picture, click, grab your phones, take a picture, click. I send an email after we do these talks once a week. And if you're on my email list, you will receive this slide. I'll send it with the email as well, right? So check in on their work and what they're learning, and with curiosity, not, did you do your homework? What did you learn from your homework today? What book and what did you learn new in English? What did you learn new in math today? Right? So check in with curiosity rather than with performance or getting it done, right? So check in on their work with curiosity, not did you do your homework? What did you learn from your homework today? And if your 10, 8, 7-year-old says nothing, you could be like, oh, bummer, but it means that you learn how to be patient because you got it done. High five. See, respect their experiences, respect their concerns, and the amount of help they wish to have from you, right? So what do I mean by that? Sometimes, especially anybody second grade and younger, they really do need your physical body next to them doing the homework. Do you have to be on top of them, reading the homework to them? No. Do you need to sit next to them and give them that physical support? Yes. How do you do that? Sit down, do your emails from work, sitting next to them during their homework. But respect that their experience. Take out of your vocabulary, it's okay. Instead of saying it's okay, say, wow, you're really sad, you're really frustrated, you're really angry. Let's breathe and wiggle it out first before we talk about it. And you do this and you look like the crazy person. And then that's respecting being in the moment. Focus on their skills and habits rather than getting the A, rather than passing the spelling test, right? So it's the skill of making the little index card with their sight words and teaching them how to practice it rather than whether or not they got an A, B, or C. So stick with how to, and this is good for all age groups, right? And stay away from results. Stay away from, you need to get an A. Stay away from, I need to hear good marks from your teacher, and stick to, you were really, really patient when you sat down and did your homework, even though you had to stop playing Legos. Stick to, oh, baby, you were so sad and I knew you wanted to hit me, but you didn't. And I'm so proud of you. You used your impulse control. So what are they doing to get what they need? And finally, let's talk about masks. Ta-da! I'm not going to get into our cultural conversation, which is primarily political, and it's a very strong subject for many, but I am going to get into what is important about this mask issue as it pertains to what are your children learning and watching. So the theme about masks is about following rules, right? So no matter where you fall on the debate of whether to wear them or not wear them, what your children are learning is that you want them to follow the rules. Whether you're in Miami-Dade and we're still waiting to hear whether they're going to be mandated or not, the lesson to your children is no matter what happens, mommy and daddy, we, your parents, have an opinion about the masks and whether you wear them or not. And the scientists have a recommendation based on the research that they've done. But at the end of the day, your school has decided that you have to wear your mask, right? Or your school has decided that every family gets to choose if the children have to wear the mask. So in either one of these scenarios, depending on where you stand, if you want your child to have their masks on, and for you, the hardest part is if the district decides that it's up to the parents, what you're going to have to contend with is, how do I follow a rule when the rest of my friends are not following it? Right? And allow the choice in mask wearing that the rule is setting in the district to teach your children that every family has their rules. And in our family, if you believe in mask on, believes that that's what's going to keep you the healthiest and the safest. So no matter what your best friend Johnny does, you keep your mask on. And all you have to say to your friend Johnny is, my family and I have decided that this is what we want to do. We don't tell Johnny to tell his friend that his family is dumb or uneducated or none of that, because one more time, it's an opportunity for this to be about following the rule that my parents have set for me, no matter what my friends do. So this is the positive of this possible, maybe negative if you are on the side of, masks on and masks mandated, right? And that's how you handle it. And all age groups can hear you and can pay attention to you. For those of you that have children 3rd grade and younger, please email your teacher and say, it's very important for me, for my child to keep their mask on. We are teaching him that the rules in our house are different than the rules in other houses. So can you help me with my child keeping their mask on, right? And those of you that have children 3rd grade and younger, you do have to send that email to the teacher that you as a parent, you need her assistance to remind him, hey, remember, your parents want you to have your mask on no matter what your friends are doing. Now, those of you that do not want any masks, that you don't want your children to be wearing their masks, and it's important to you, and in case that the rule that the mask is mandated, it is really important, again, that the lesson here is about rule following, right? And we follow the rules of the school because they are set for the school, and the school decided that this is what needs to happen, whether we like it or not, because they are another authority figure outside of us, and we follow the rule. This is especially good for children 10 and younger who are very rigid. It's very important for you to tell your children, this is less about what we as a family believe in and more about, it's a rule of the school. We don't like it. We as your parents are going to take action, and we're going to petition, and we're going to make calls, because when you don't agree on a rule, you still follow it, and then you still follow the rule. You can't break a rule just because you don't like it. You have to petition for it to change. And this is a really good lesson for your children to learn, because maybe they don't want to, maybe the 10-year-old no longer wants to do after school activities, but the rule in your home is that they play team sports. But if you have taught them, look, when you don't like a rule, you petition for it and you try to change it by taking action and debating about it. Again, this is a lesson that your child can learn in this mask situation. So this mask situation is not, it can be an opportunity, a big cultural opportunity for everybody, no matter where you are in the debate about mask wearing. Now, I will say this, because I am a licensed professional. The American Pediatric Association does recommend for children 12 and older to get the vaccine, and for children 12 and younger to wear a mask in indoor places with groups of people as a means of defense against COVID-19. And that is what the American Pediatric Association is recommending for all children. All right, that's it. Off my slide. Now it's time for you to ask me your questions. I said a lot, so I'll give us all, I'll breathe too, wiggle it out, an opportunity before I start answering questions. So how do you ask a question? you put it in the Q&A. So you could type a question there and I'll see it there and I'll answer it. Or you could put it in the chat and I'll see your question there and I will also answer it. If you don't want anybody to see your question because you want it to be anonymous, make sure to write it in the chat and to write it to the host or the panelist specifically in the chat box. And if you want to ask me your question live with your voice so I can hear you, I can't see you, but I can hear you, just raise your hand. You can press more in your phone and you could see the raise hand option. So I have one question and I'm going to start with that one, and everybody else just kind of think and wonder, you know, what is the question that you have for me today? My almost 5-year-old gets upset at least once per day, crosses his arms, grunts, and stomps his feet. I don't think it's too bad, but what do I do or say after he does this to help him calm down? I tell him to take deep breaths. So number one, congratulations. Yes, ma'am. It's not unusual. All of us, all 11 of us that are here listening to me, we also stomp and grunt and walk away from things, but we don't do it externally. You know, as we mature and we build our social emotional skills of social awareness and relationship skills and self-management, we do those grunts and those things inside of our head. So is it normal that your 5-year-old is doing this? Yes, 100%. Now, what do you do? Depends. If he is grunting and stomping towards brushing his teeth, do not say anything at all. That is 5-year-old manifestation of, you know, tolerating the frustration he feels that he had to finish watching Ninjago so that he can go brush his teeth. So if you have said to them, okay, it's time for dinner, and they're like, but they're putting away their toys and they're going to the dinner table, stay quiet. Do not say anything, right? Just let them come to the dinner table and then go about your business. Now, if they're grunting and stomping and stuck in a transition, which is common for 5-year-olds, or if they answer you in a disrespectful way, like, no, I didn't want toast, I wanted pancakes, you're so mean. If in that moment, both of these are about social norms and social reciprocity, right? So in that moment, I want you to look at them and say, hey, you're being disrespectful in the way you're sharing that with me, but I know you're loving and you're kind. So why don't you try saying that again? Take a deep breath and say it again. And then you're going to repeat this from now all the way until your child is close to 8 years old. And then at 8 years old, you're going to get one of these or one of these, which is perfectly normal. So keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And it will be good, good, good stuff. Okay, the next question. My 7-year-old seems to be a follower and just wants to please others. It's so frustrating to watch and to hear her about situations when we just want her to be the leader and not follow. Okay, so all children anywhere between 4 to 7.5 desperately want to connect and be part of the group. So one aspect of this is perfectly normal, right? Like they don't want to be the only kid with the bento box with like the special food that you bought at Whole Foods. They want to be the kid with the with the Lunchables, you know, from Publix, right? They don't like that is, they don't want to be different. Like they want to wear the same shoes because they don't like to get pointed out as the different one. And with that one, I don't fight it. But also, not every child is a leader. Temperament and personality, we are born with. And there are, like, you know, everybody has heard about introverts and extroverts, right? And that's real. You know, some of us are a little more extroverted and leader-like, and some of us are a little more introverted and observant. So some of the kids that fall in the introverted quiet, they move slowly, they're more observant, they're more empathic emotionally, sometimes create the strategy of just going along with others because it makes them feel safe. So instead of asking her to be a leader and not to be a follower and not to do everything that everybody else is doing, take her to the play date, observe. When you get in the car, every single time you get in the car, you say to her, you know, baby girl, I noticed that when you guys were playing from playing kitty cat to playing Barbies, you really wanted the Princess Barbie, but when Susana told you she wanted the Princess Barbie, you gave it to her. Now I'm wondering, did you make that decision because making her angry and making her like get mad with you would make you feel unsafe and uncomfortable was better to take care of than to really stand up for your dolly? Yeah. Okay, well, mama, you don't have to do that every time, but remember that you do have choice, right? So because a very quiet, observant, introverted person sometimes puts their personal security and their comfort and they're kind of like, I really don't want to have a conflict with this person, especially since I'm here playing, as a choice. But I want you to allow your 7-year-old to see it as a choice. And she is leading if she walks away from something or she just gives in to somebody that is bigger and louder. And so if that's the case, just do that and check in with her every time and let her know that there's choice. And please, 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 parents, please, please notice if your child is either an introvert or an extrovert. Because if you ask an introvert to be the first one to speak up for themselves and not, you will miss how they are taking care of themselves. An introverted child will just remove themselves very carefully from a group. And I love watching that in a classroom. There's chaos and my little observant introverted kid is like, ooh, peace out. And they just kind of back up quietly and they go find something to do. That's super smart. That's a leader quality, is just quiet. So don't miss her quiet leader qualities. And leaders are overrated. It's an American thing. It's a cultural thing. Quiet, observant, Zen-like leaders are respected all over Asia and some of the Middle East. So leaders and upfront and outgoing it's an American thing. It's a cultural thing. So I hope that helps. Okay, next question. Hello, Lina. Thank you so much for this. My daughter, she wrote it in Spanish, so I'm going to try to translate as I read it. My daughter is 3.5, and she doesn't listen the majority of the time. I have to repeat, and she thinks that everything is a game, and she starts jumping, and she makes jokes, and I don't laugh, and I try to stay firm, but termino siempre muy frustrada. Okay, so everybody. Young children, I don't know, 2nd grade and younger, really cannot follow like too many directions at a time, right? So if you're telling them, okay, ve busca los zapatos y busca la carterita y después, blah, 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 okay? That's what your kid hears. They only hear the first thing and the last thing, and they don't hear the middle. So sometimes when you're telling a 3-year-old to do something, they actually are only hearing like the first thing that you're telling them. So it is important to, one, break down your direction into 1-step increments, especially if you have a 3-year-old. 2, this is how you tell a child to change the transition. You're in the kitchen, it's time for dinner. If you have any child under 10, it's time for dinner. They're not gonna move. Some 8-year-olds will look. The 7-year-old that wrote before is gonna stomp their feet and come to you, but a 3-year-old won't even notice. So it's a 1, 2, 3. 1, we use our voice. It's time for dinner. Then we walk over to them. Before we say anything, we put a hand on their shoulder and then we go, es tiempo de comer, vamos a marchar a la mesa. Why is she playing with you? Because it's adorable, because she's 3 and they like to play. So play to, whenever you can play from transition to transition is great. Whenever you can sing from transition to transition is great. But if you're screaming in the kitchen, ven que nos vamos a cambiar, ven que nos vamos, and you have been screaming in the kitchen 20 times, you are making the mistake, not your 3-year-old. And this is super duper hard. And every time I say this, and when I see you guys live, your faces change. Like, so say it, walk over to them, put your hand on their shoulder. Hey, es tiempo de limpiar tus juguetes. And then expect all 3-year-olds to go, oh, to fall down to the ground. Expect 5-year-olds to go, expect 8-year-olds to go, you're so mean, why won't you let me? And expect 10-year-olds to roll their eyes, right? But, and then if they don't move, if they're still like messy, I'm going to help your body. You pick them up and you take them to the next thing. But do that every single time. But if she's playing, if she runs away from you, let's say that you're like, okay, nos vamos a bañar. No, ha, ha. And she starts running all over the house. Don't move. Stay exactly where you are. Yo te espero. It's going to take her anywhere between a minute to a minute and a half to come back to you and sit on your lap. If she goes and she turns on the TV, next time, remember to remove the remote. But repeat and remind, and it's perfectly, absolutamente normal que la niña de 3 años y medio juegue en cambio que escuche. Okay. I'm not sure. Okay. So let me see what other question is here. Let me answer this one. Hi, my daughter is starting kindergarten and her school sent home a packet of homework for the summer to get her ready for kindergarten. We did some of the work the first couple of weeks, but haven't done any lately. Should I give her a break before school starts or should I push to do the work? I wouldn't do the work at all. I wouldn't do a packet before kindergarten, but you know, I get away with it because I'm a development expert, and then the teacher looks at me and thinks, did I do something wrong? And I get to go. So, you know, but there is, you can say that, you know, it isn't 100% awful, right? But I do want you to follow the energy of your child, right? So you can, it's everything with children under 10, it's how you present it, how you make sense of it, right? So I want you to say to her, hey, school's going to start on Monday. So for the next 3 days, we're going to practice school once a day, every day for the next 3 days. And then you're going to say, do you think we should do it? And then pick 2 times that you are available to sit with her, to practice school, and let her choose. Do you think we should do it after breakfast? Do you think we should do it? And then, okay, it's time to practice school. And just like the 3-year-old, oh, let's pretend to go on the bus. Get on the bus. Whenever you could do anything playful, do it playful, right? Even if you feel silly, you could be like, I feel so silly. Mama doesn't like to do this, but I'm going to do it. Get on the bus. And then it could be playful. But do you have to do it? No. Do you have to have a reason for your teacher that you didn't get it done? The reason is, you know, she was pushing back and I didn't want her to have a negative association with school by me trying to finish this packet. But if you want to try it, you could say, we're going to play school, we're going to practice school, and we're going to do this every day for 10 minutes, right? And here's a rule for everybody to remember. Your child's attention span to a task is their age times 3. So for 3-year-olds, if they're doing a task, they only have a 9-minute attention span. For a 5-year-old, attention to the task, right? Especially an educational task. This is in particular an educational task, like reading and writing and more of the humdrum things that we think about school. It's 15 minutes. right? So hold that in mind as well. So don't keep your child hostage for longer than their age times 3 when you're doing an academic task. And this is true for the homework as well. I think somebody was writing to me on the other end. She always wants to be the first, win everything. And if she does not, she gets extremely upset. For example, she tries to compete with kids 2 or 3 years older than her swimming, and she gets so mad, but she can't be that fast. That happens with a lot of things. Okay, so competition in children between the ages of 5 and 7 is perfectly normal. And this is because of their concrete thought patterns, right? So children in this age group are very black and white. So why they don't want to lose is because their mind is telling them, if I lose, I'm a loser. And that's why they're so competitive. So if she gets upset when she loses, one more time, first, be there. You cannot use the mind to solve something that the mind created. So first say, okay, let's breathe. Let's wiggle out the emotion. I'll breathe for you. And then silence. It's so hard to lose, you know, because you feel like you're a loser, but you're not. It's just that this time when you were playing the game, you made some mistakes. So what can we learn from the game of Candyland? What can we learn from the swimming? Or in that, I like that example about the swimming, right? And you know, to let her know, like, you know, those kids are bigger and they've practiced swimming longer than you. So that is very, very important. Okay, so I have another question. My child is 3 years, 8 months, and she seems to not listen when given direction, when she doesn't want to comply. Bedtime, mealtime, playtime. If I count to 3 or raise my voice, she complies immediately, but I don't want to threaten or scream. My child is 3 years and 8 months. Sometimes my child bubbles spit around her mouth when she is complying in protest. She knows she's not allowed to spit, and I believe she's trying to toe the line. Should I ignore the pretend spit or immediately correct? If correct, how to correct? Okay. Actually, no, the bubbling of the spit around her mouth is actually her self-regulating a little bit. She's using, it's a type of sucking. So leave it alone. At bedtime, you can, when both of you are calm, you can say to her that we don't play with the spit in our mouth, because the spit in our mouth belongs inside of our mouth, but only at bedtime. In the moment when she's overstimulated because she has to follow your transition, leave her alone, because it's a way, it's almost like a pacifier, believe it or not. When children play with spit, they're calming themselves. Now, no 3-year-old is manipulating you. No 3-year-old is doing anything to you. All 3-year-olds are having a really difficult time managing their sense of self, right? Managing their ability to manage emotions. So remember what I said. A 3-year-old doesn't know how to. So when you tell her it's time for bed, she feels the frustration of ending the joy of whatever you were doing before bedtime. So the way to manage a 3-year-old, and this is a really long conversation, and it is to make sure that you stay consistent in your routine, but don't expect her to be happy and okay about going to the bathroom. And I'm going to count to 3. I love that your heart is telling you, I don't want to scare her into complying about the rules. Instead of saying, I'm going to count to 3, I want you to say, uh-oh, it's really hard to stop, but let's breathe. Go over to her, put your hand on her heart, put her hand on your heart, your hand on her heart, and go, let's breathe, and let's walk to the bathroom. right? So that you can compassionately move her through the frustration of going to the bathroom. So instead of saying, if she's like, ah, no more, no more, you can go down to her level and say, hey, you're really sad. You don't want to take a shower. Mama's going to hold you. And she's like, wow, 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 hitting you in the head. Let's go. It's really hard. Shh, let's breathe. And you walk to the bathroom. Let's breathe. Because what we're teaching her, which we all need, right? How many of us woke up Monday and had to take deep breaths and go make ourselves our coffee so we can do the job of the day? How many of us have to take deep breaths before we go in and grab the toddler because we know they're going to kick us because we have to change their diaper? That calming yourself so that you could do a task that makes you feel frustrated is what your 3-year-old is showing you that she can't do just yet. So that's a way to manage it. Okay, so a follow-up question to the original question about, hey, my child seems to follow instead of lead, is saying she is very observant, very empathic, but what about when a kid could be kind of mean and she deals with it and still wants to hang? What should I say? Still that she has a choice? Thank you, very good info. You don't say anything in the moment. You let her feel the discomfort. You let her be like, man, this kid is awful, but I don't know what to do with it, because the actual experience teaches her what she doesn't know how to manage yet. And do not go and intervene and save her, because then you're telling her you're a victim and they're a perpetrator. And we don't ever want to make children victims or perpetrators. You watch her and you watch what choices she's making, or if she comes for help. Like, let's say that's happening and you observe it, and then she comes to you and she's like, mommy, I want to leave. You can say to her, you know what? I can see why you want to leave, because I noticed that Charlie was screaming and using a loud voice to try to keep the ball all to himself. But you had a hard time asking him if he can give you the ball. You never said anything, baby girl. So do you still want to leave? And give her the choice. The choice, the dilemma in the choice for children between the ages of 5.5 and 8 is what teaches the social norms and the social rules. And it's what teaches an observant, quiet, empathic person to be clear with their boundaries and to be clear about how they can be safe in the world. So good questions, everybody. For today, I shall share my screen again and let you know what are things that you can do moving forward with me. So if you love what I had to say, if you have more questions than answers, because sometimes that happens in one of these, go ahead and reach out and do a parenting consultation with me. It's an hour and a half of exactly what I just did, but I answer your specific questions, your specific problems by listening to your history and your information. You walk away from the parenting consultation with the why of your children's behavior, the solution to the behavior and how to change it, and a plan of action. So you can do that, and that's an hour and a half. I highly, highly, highly recommend my monthly subscription. There are 2 levels, but basically you in one of them, you get me once a month. In the other one, you get me every Tuesday on a group call, just like this one. I'm answering questions. You get me in a private Facebook group where you type in your questions overnight and I answer them within 48 hours. So it's kind of like having me in your back pocket when you think like, is this normal? And finally, I give out a lot of free information, both in my blog that is on the website, which is stopparentingalone.com, as well as in all the social media things. Twitter, my Instagram account, personal Instagram account where I do little rants and stuff is Parenting Expert, and Facebook is Stop Parenting Alone. So I hope that you'll be able to follow. This recording will be in our website. And look for it, in Maybe by Monday, you go to blogs, you go to recorded talks, and you can see every other free talk that I have done. And it also, you could see the topics that I have spoken on. And if you are part of the email list, you will get kind of information and things that I want you to read based on what we talked about today. So thank you for signing on. And until next time, bye.